Hello. So today we are going to be talking about the mind and the body. And my name is Jeremy Alford, and I'm the president of the Middle East Eating Disorder Association. And I have with me today my colleague, head representative of the Middle East Eating Disorder Association, Dr. Journana Warde Kamar. And we're very excited about this, that we're going to be guiding you through this presentation. So the purpose of this presentation is to offer you information that hopefully you will find useful and interesting, and hopefully you will also be able to share it with others as well. This is what we're going to be discussing. So some aspects of what we will be talking about, you may already know. And if so, that's very good. And some other aspects that you may not know, and therefore, hopefully that's going to be useful and informative. So we're going to be going through aspects of the body, what happens when we eat. We're going to talk about what to know about diets, a little bit about how the mind works, what body image is, social pressure, and finally a takeaway, which would be what to remember. So, Journana, perhaps you can start with this part.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk a bit with Jeremy about all of this and teach you a bit on how your body works and how it grows, what we eat, what happens with the food when we eat, etc. Next, please. So the body weight has plenty of organs. It goes up from the brain, the eyes, the lungs, the digestive system, the muscles, the feet, and we have a very complicated body. Each organ needs a lot of energy to work and function correctly. Next. So as you know, and as you have seen around you, and every single body is different. We come from different families, we have different genes, and we look different from head to toe. We do not have any, we're not like twins, you know, everybody is different. And the weight usually is set also genetically, just like our hair color, our height, and our shoe size. So this is what we're gonna try to explain, so you, at the end of the day, learn how to accept yourself because you are different. So it's a journey and you will learn everything about it. Next, please.
So
why do we eat?
What do we eat? Exactly. That's an interesting thing, because obviously it's a behavior that we all do. We all need food, but sometimes we never really sit down and think about it, or think about like the mechanics of how that works, and all these little details, which is what we are going to be talking a little bit about now, because we tend to eat without thinking, you know. We just do it because we have to. But food is so essential to all of our functioning. You know, without food, we wouldn't be able to be alive. And therefore, we need food, just like a car needs fuel. And that's what allows us to function. It's then what allows us as we grow up to be able to play, to do sports, to be able to socialize with each other, to be able to problem solve, to concentrate, to study. So many elements that, again, the food is essential for life. So food is fuel. So here we are, it's about eating to live as opposed to living to eat.
Yeah, and end up obsessed with food, either to eat too much or to restrict, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what happens when we are hungry? There's so many hormones in our body that have different functions, and some of these hormones are dedicated for hunger. That's how we begin to get hungry. It's because there's specific and particular hormones that are being released, and generally these hormones will be released when there's the stores of energy in our body begins to empty. So that's usually the sensations we start to experience inside our body. Some of these sensations you might be very familiar with. For example, you might start to experience maybe your tummy rumbling, although tummy rumbling doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually hungry. Okay, there could be other reasons too, but typically that's one of the symptoms that we can experience. So a rumbling tummy, we might be feeling a bit dizzy, we might have a headache, we might have difficulties in concentrating, or we might even become irritable. So this is a little picture here that basically describes how important all the food groups are. So it's not just about eating one type of food that will allow us to live and to function, to do all the things that we would like to do. If that were the case, then things would be different. In fact, we need all groups. We need a combination of all food groups, and this is what we call balance, a balance of all food groups. So here we're referring to carbs, carbohydrates, we're referring to protein, we're referring to super green foods, so vegetables, fruits, and so on. So there's a full range of foods that are essential for our optimal functioning. So how do we eat? How to eat? Remember earlier, a few moments ago, I was using the analogy of a car. So a body, just like a car, needs fuel every few hours, and responding to that in a timely manner is essential to have that balance, as opposed to skipping the time. Then if we do, our symptoms might become more exacerbated. We might feel even dizzier or be less able to function. So there might be lots of things that happen to us if we don't actually eat in a timely manner. Just like a car would probably stop functioning if we just decided not to put fuel in it once there's the indicator that says, oh, the petrol light is on, we need to go into the petrol station. So basically what we know is that the physical body needs food every about 3 to 4 hours. Of course, it depends on how much energy spent you do. If you're, for example, in doing sports or a lot of sports, then you're spending a lot of energy, then you'll also have to compensate that for what we call energy in, which has to do with the food intake in that moment. But more or less here, it's about every 3 to 4 hours. And generally what is advised, what's generally recommended, is to have about 5 different times in which we're going to be eating. 3 of those times will be regular meals, and 2 of them, sometimes could be even 3 of them, it could be small snacks in between. So this is kind of an average of what would lead to a balanced lifestyle. And as we were talking about, the food groups are essential. So this is just about the regular times, kind of timely fashion upon which, as human beings, we'll be eating in order to function properly.
Yeah, make sure to replenish our stores as soon as they're empty. Yes. And this is a typical plate that shows the different types and food groups that need to be in a plate. So as you saw in the previous slide, there was we need to include at least 3 food groups. So this is here an image that shows that we need to have in a plate vegetable, whole grains, and healthy or protein anyway, with lots of water. Don't forget to drink.
Yes, that's the key element, the water, right? Is important. What is the percentage of water that we are made of in our body?
70%.
70%.
It's huge. We need lots of water a day. And as you see here also on the picture, stay active. This is the new way of showing people that it's a balance. We need to eat, but we also need to be fit and exercise to train our muscles, our heart rate, blood pressure, etc. It's very important to be active and not sedentary. And especially at your age, the group who is now watching us, with all these new video games, we are more inclined to stay and watch TV and play games instead of going out and play. So this is to keep in mind.
Which can be very tempting, obviously, just to be in front of the TV all day. We don't notice the time passing by, obviously, some of us more than others, but it's so essential to know that it's important to move around and to do things that you like doing. Play football, might be dancing, you might have like various activities.
So why do we put on weight?
Yes.
Why do we put on weight? It's normal. The first thing is because we grow. And the growth not only is not only about getting fat, it's getting heavier because our organs are growing with us, right? The bones, the muscles, the organs, the brain, everything is growing. So it's normal to put on weight. The very important thing for the final body weight is, as I said previously, the body type that comes from the family genes. So we inherit a certain type of body and we grow being at this more or less the same body type that our family. So this is very important to teach you to stop comparing yourself to others. We are different. Everyone is different. It's useless to compare to other friends or family members. The other reason why we put on weight is some diseases that can increase body weight, some medications that we can take for any reason, any pathology, any disease could make us eat more or store more. It depends. They are very few, but they exist. And finally, diets. And you will see how diet is one of the biggest promoter of body weight gain. So we will try to show you here what to know about diets, the goods and the bads about diets. Everyone goes on diets, and it will be very hard to change the culture, but it's important to know because knowledge is key. And so you know exactly what to take from this and how to change the behavior when eating is a problem. So what are diets? A diet, when you hear about diet, it means that we're going to restrict. It's either restrict the quantity or restrict the quality of our food intake. Okay, so these two have some consequences. Yes. These two things have consequences. When you decrease the quantity of the food, or you in a manner where your body is still satiated, it means that it's satisfied. It works as long as you're not decreasing too much. When you restrict the quality of the food, it means when you stop, when you decide, because I'm on a diet, I'm going to stop eating this or that, this can induce some cravings. So the diet cycle is something that you need to be very aware about. We start by putting on weight. So when we want to control diet, we go on, when we want to control the weight, we go on a diet, we restrict in quantity or quality, and we reach a certain body weight that if it's too low, or even if it's while decreasing, some hormone levels are secreted to maintain the body weight, because the brain needs to keep you at a certain body weight, that is your body weight set point. And if you go further down, it will secrete all the hormones to make you eat again. And when the body weight goes down, the metabolic rate also goes down because of the loss of muscle. You need to be very cautious about this. When we lose weight, we don't only lose body fat, we also lose water and muscle mass. So all these will induce a phenomenon of increasing appetite and slowing the metabolism, which will go back to leading to weight gain. So this is important to understand.
That is a very important point, in fact, Journana, because in fact, sometimes, especially at this age, we might not necessarily be very satisfied with our weight for some reason and decide that we absolutely need to lose this weight as quickly as possible. And we might engage in certain behaviors, you know, that might not necessarily be the right one, simply because we want it to happen fast, but without really understanding the mechanics of the body. Because the body, as Journana has described very well, you know, it functions in a particular way, and then there's might be a chain reaction, like a domino effect of things that might begin to take place. And then the weeks that come, the months that come, we end up having a more complicated situation. So it's really, really important to understand what Dr. Journana has very kindly described to us here about the function of the body. Another aspect of restricting oneself from eating certain foods, what happens is that one of the symptoms is that we begin to crave them. We begin to think of them. What we don't allow ourselves is what we want more, as the phenomenon that basically one of the phenomenons that actually takes place. So it's really about looking for a method that's actually going to be the most helpful and the one that will actually have common sense in allowing you to reach perhaps your targets, but with more knowledge. I think that's really a key element here. So this is a little summary here of what Dr. Journana was saying, which is really, really important, is that diets in general will lead to meaning restriction. Restriction means your metabolism will change. Perhaps we can just describe what metabolism is very quickly, Journana.
Yeah, the metabolism is the way the body stores and spends its energy, you know, utilizes its energy to nourish the body. So it could be very active, very rapid when we are ourselves very active. And some diseases could be slow down the metabolic rate. And again, it's also genetic. Some people have a slower metabolism than others. Some people digest and utilizes their energy differently. So we need to be really very cautious and learn really to listen to our body. And the metabolic rate usually stabilizes at a certain point that is what it needs to stabilize the weight also.
Now, this is sometimes maybe a little bit difficult or complicated to understand. So that's why we're using like these little images to try to convey the message that if we have some thought about wanting to do something about our weight, it's always best to speak to someone who can help you, who has the knowledge about these things, so that you don't end up doing something maybe because a friend told you or because you read it somewhere, but it's not necessarily appropriate or the right thing for you, and then you end up in this kind of cycle. And then as time progresses, you end up getting into more complications. All right, so this is really essential. So a really important element to part of us that we that is us is basically the brain part, and that's, you know, the aspect of ourself that allows us to really experience the world in a specific way. So here we're referring to the mind. The mind allows us to experience everything in this life, and we experience life through our five senses, and this is really key because the mind is responsible for so many aspects of what we do in the detail. It's so complex. We're still learning so much about the brain and the mind, and therefore aspects such as how and why we think the way we do, how memory works, how we learn, how we're able to problem solve, to feel emotionally. So we have emotions as well, which we'll talk a little bit more in a moment. We have senses, okay, so our sense of smell, our sense of taste, our sense of hearing. These are all part of us. All of this affects the way we behave, how we change, and how we grow. And obviously, the brain and our ability to function at our best level, our brain, our mind needs fuel.
Also remember something very important here, that the brain is made out of fat. It's 100% fat, and it only feeds on sugar. So these are usually the two elements that people would like to avoid and to restrict when they go on a diet. So remember that the brain will not function if you remove completely the food, the fat and the sugar.
And it's important that sugar is meant as another technical term that we use for sugar is like glucose, but there's many sources of sugar. There's of course artificial sugar, which is often found in certain sweets, and that's not necessarily a very healthy type of sugar. But then there's other forms of sugar that we find in fruits, which is again glucose. We have various other forms of sugar that can be more healthy for oneself. So
yeah, what we call carbohydrates and the complex sugar, our complex sugar.
There you go. So you see, knowledge is power. It's really about getting the right information, because there's a lot of information. It's easy to get a lot of access to lots of information, but sometimes we're not necessarily using the right information for oneself. And so that's really a key thing. So inside the brain, we also have the capacity to experience emotions. We experience the world through emotions. Our emotions, various forms. So we have primary emotions, we have complex emotions. Like primary emotions are going to be like happy, sad, angry, scared. And then you have more complex emotions such as jealousy or guilt or shame or envy. And these are different type of more complex emotions. And all of this, they actually are there to allow us to navigate through our life in a particular way. So when something is unpleasant, we can move away from it. When something is pleasant, we can get closer to it. So of course, this is not meant as the focus of our talk in itself, but it's important to know that emotions can sometimes be locked inside the body. That means when we don't express things, we keep them inside. And sometimes as we keep them inside, we might engage in certain behaviors, perhaps as a way to cope with certain emotions that we are not expressing in a way that might not necessarily be very healthy. For example, if I'm very sad and I'm not talking to anybody who can really understand me, then that can be a stress factor that's actually going to be affecting my physiology, and it's going to affect perhaps my weight. It's going to perhaps affect how I put fuel in my body, what I eat perhaps, or what I don't eat. So it's important to be able to understand emotions and to express them in a way that's going to be helpful.
What is body image? You hear a lot about body image and self-body image, and we insist on having you have the best and more positive body image towards yourself, because body image is what you think about your own body. Body image is what you feel about your body and how you care about your body. So it is very important. It is perceived by the brain, and it's very important to remember that your body is unique. You cannot compare yourself to others. Accept it we sometimes ask you to love your body. It's complex and difficult sometimes. The most important thing is to accept it and to acknowledge that you are unique and that your body takes you places. Look at all the positive things that your body makes you do. Run, travel, walk, go up the stairs, go down the stairs, dance, etc. Try to think about all the positive impact of your body on yourself, not only the negative aspects of being too thin or too fat or having too much muscle or not enough, etc. We always complain about something. And this is important to finally start accepting your body how it is and live with it. So yeah, everybody is different.
We keep coming
You
back,
see?
same reminder here, you know, because we're really unique. We have a tendency to compare ourselves, and a lot of the time when we do that, we don't know that we're walking into a minefield of total misrepresentation, and that means that we, you know, it leaves room for a lot of false type of thinking or inaccurate thinking. And a lot of the time, this comparing will be something we will be experiencing in our social interactions. And this has to do with social pressure. It's never nice to be in a situation when we're talked about, or vice versa, talking about somebody else. And it's something that we might often do, especially at this age, as we're growing up. But at the same time, not only between ourselves, but also what we are seeing around us in the media, on television, perhaps even in magazines, if that's the case. So a lot of what we see are messages that are not accurate and give a complete false sense of what's really going on. So we're going to compare ourselves. We're going to want to be like such and such a person. We might not understand why we're not like such and such a person. And we begin to pursue some kind of image or ideal, which might not necessarily be the right one for you at all. So, and this puts a lot of pressure and can lead to gossiping about each other, you know, maybe saying things about how we look physically, you know, about each other, to each other. It's not very nice. This is a term, as you can see here. It's called body shaming. You know, always kind of remember, how would you feel like if this was being done to you? You know, that's a helpful way to kind of maybe refrain yourself from being in that position. You know, when you're thinking perhaps of saying something, maybe you're laughing, maybe you're saying it in a joking type of manner and you don't mean it, or it's not that serious, but actually for the person who's in the position of receiving that kind of information, really isn't nice if we just think about it for a moment and put ourselves in their shoes. A lot of what we see in the media will be photoshopped, so it's important to keep that in mind. Here in this image, we have the Photoshop on one side, and when we have the real on the other side. We also have influences with even toys, the color of our toys, the different objects, things like that. And that can also be influencing the way that we actually think. And we can, again, be misled into the comparing. I want to be like this person. Why am I not like this person? Why is that person like that? That person is better than me. That person is not as good as me. Of course, there's many other elements here involved, but it's important to remember that we're all unique. And that's really a key thing to keep in mind, just to know that all these influences that are there, they're there because there's so much difference around us. But all these difference doesn't mean that we actually absolutely have to be like this or like that, but because we're already unique as we are. You are unique, every single one of you, completely unique in your own style. And you don't actually have to be somebody else or like somebody else, because you are yourself. So what can happen when we have all these different influences, and when we have these ideas of, oh, I want to lose weight, there's something that's I'm not happy about here, or I engage in certain behaviors, or maybe I follow some kind of a diet and I want to lose weight fast. Sometimes, some of us, not everybody, but sometimes this can lead to a hyper focus, or a hyper focus or hyper concentration, or even another word like obsession on our weight, our shape, our size, and on food. So we begin maybe to restrict ourselves a lot. We're not necessarily eating in the right time, not giving ourselves the right food. And this can lead to so many different emotions and states, like being depressed, feeling down. Food becomes like perhaps a source of emotional comfort, a form of self-soothing, and again, this is not everybody who might find themselves in this situation, but it can
Yeah,
happen. It can happen.
You need to remember that it's the societal pressure that expect us to look one way, and everyone think that he can change his body and he has this power to change his body. So why would you have these ideas when, if you think of your shoe size, you cannot change it? It's only the size and the body weight that you can change. You cannot be taller or shorter. You think you can control your body weight, and you go in these obsessions, and that could lead to really very bad behavior, feelings, and psychological despair, So we need to remember to stop thinking about all these obsessive idea, because it will impact in a way or not different aspects of your life. You won't have a minute to think about anything else than comparing and weighing yourself. And this image here right before was very interesting, Jeremy. Yeah, so eating disorders is this obsession, about food and weight. And it's only the tip of the iceberg. And when you look underneath that disease, as Jeremy was saying earlier, he talked about all the different feelings that you have. So often, if you look back, you see all these emotions inside of you that could lead to this wrong behavior towards food.
So not everybody who actually
absolutely not.
is concerned about how they look or how they eat, or will necessarily find themselves developing such a condition. However, these are the important takeaways to remember. And before mentioning these, it's important to know that if any of the information that we've shared so far, that you relate to it in some way, or that you find that you're struggling in some way, or that you know somebody who might be struggling with these things, you can just reach out to us. You don't have to be doing this alone, or we are definitely an option here to be able to guide you. So what to remember? First of all, is next time you're going to eat, how about you take your time, just out of curiosity. I mean, of course, you can just eat the way that you've been doing, but you can also just choose to take a moment, say, you know what, I'm actually going to really taste my food, take my time to appreciate the flavor, the texture, all the flavors inside my mouth, and before I actually swallow, and appreciate the sensation of what's going on. That can be a really interesting exercise. And important also to keep in mind is that you don't have to continue to eat once you feel full. I mean, we have this idea that sometimes we have to finish our plate, but actually, again, that's a view. It's a point of view. That's a way of thinking, but that's not necessarily what's right for one's physical body. So we can listen to our body, and we can just stop to eat once we're full. Yeah, but it's important to always allow to give the body all the nutrients that it needs. As long as we're functioning well, then we can listen to our body cues, okay? Hunger cues and fullness cues, because these are all other hormones that are released whenever we're full. The body will release another set of hormones that we are calling here fullness hormones. So we can just listen to them. If you feel emotional and you feel for some reason you want to turn to food to soothe yourself, because you might have done this before, just remember that speaking about one's feelings and emotions is really the best thing that you can do. You know, it's the best thing, is to acknowledge them and to communicate them. You can do that with a friend, someone you trust, a school counselor, maybe a family member, is far more effective, okay? Because we need to remember that the body functions with food. Food is the fuel that we need to function. However, it's not just the fuel. We are also allowed to enjoy the food, because food tastes good. So we can enjoy it. We can enjoy certain foods. It's important to do that. So would you like to say a little bit about the rest?
Yeah, I wanted to remind everyone here that just like the car, it needs to be refueled regularly. So it's not relisted here on this slide, but remember that the energy you eat, it's the energy you need, will be used in about 3 to 4 hours. So after 3 or 4 hours, the sugar level and the energy level is down. So you need to remember to be eating 2 snacks per day on top of this. Finally, pay attention and remember not to compare yourself to others. You are different, you are unique. And because comparing usually affects self-esteem, you know, as I was saying, no one is really happy about its body. We always find something to criticize. So why? Just take it as it is and remember that you have so many things you can do and so many other areas in your life to achieve, and value doesn't come from this number on the scale, you know. Your values are much more important. You are creative. It's what you do, what you say, your achievements. So think really about many, many other things. Take care of yourself, take care of your body. For women, you can put some makeup, take care of your hair. So caring is not only about health, it's also about feeling good yourself, not for others, not to please others, and not to look like what the society expects us to be.
Thank you, Journana. This is really the most important here, is just to be reminded that all our bodies are incredible. We have an incredible ability to experience this world in a very specific way. We have creative potentials, and there's so much that we can do. So loving our body is important, accepting our body, respecting our body, understanding how our body works. It's really all about that, the balance.
And this is a great book to read, by the way.
Yes. So here we are, the end of this presentation. Hopefully it's been very, very useful for you. And as I said at the beginning, if there's any of this information that you already knew beforehand, well, that's okay. And if there was a lot of new things here that we shared, hopefully that's going to allow you to progress in your life. So you can contact us and we can be reached on all of these in these different ways. So take care, everybody, for now. And again, we're here if it's ever needed.
Bye.